Everyone, and welcome to Let's Get Visible, a podcast for business owners helping them to grow, have a sustainable business, and get more visibility online. I'm Dawes Brown, and I'll be bringing you SEO and digital marketing tips, as well as interviews and conversations with other business owners. So, let's get started.
So with 25 years of experience in the web design industry, Brenton Cannizzaro has made a significant mark by focusing on creating tier 1 websites and applications for ambitious brands looking to maintain a competitive edge. His work spans globally, collaborating with startups, small businesses, enterprises, and government agencies across different regions. Regardless of their industry or size, clients are at a phase in their business journey when they truly understand their website needs to drive business opportunities and stakeholder engagement. This is when they're looking for websites and applications that powerfully work for them to assist the next phase of their growth and deliver immense value. And that's where Brenton and his team come in. Alongside his achievements in web design, Brenton is deeply committed as the co-founder of Contain Your Brain, which is a stress management application. This personal passion is evident in the application's design, which aims to mitigate anxiety, improve focus, and enhance sleep quality through simple yet profoundly effective strategies for better managing worry. So let's welcome to the Let's Get Visible podcast, Brenton.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me, Dawes.
Hey, Brenton. And where are you dialing in from and joining us today?
From my home in Melbourne, where I work. We actually all work remotely since COVID.
Yes.
Prior to that, obviously, we were in office space. But for us, working from home was not a problem at all. So much so that the team loved it and did not want to go back to offices. So since 2020, I've worked from my studio at home, and here I am.
Absolutely. And is it sunny in Melbourne today, or what's
it's
the
actually
forecast?
Not too bad, surprisingly. Freezing cold, but the sun is out. So
definitely freezing cold.
Yeah.
And so, Brenton, take us on that journey. As you said just now, you're working remotely from home, but you started in web design, obviously, over 25 years ago. When did that journey first sort of begin for you, and how did it begin for you, and what did it look like?
Great question. I'll go right back.
Yeah, right back to the beginning.
Yeah, I say in my other life, my other career,
Yes.
I was actually a school teacher.
Wow, I did not know that.
There you go. And I taught design at a Catholic high school in Adelaide. So I live in Melbourne now, but born and raised in Adelaide. Yes. And to even go back further, back when I went through high school, university, then it was pre-internet and I wanted to be a graphic designer. True story, though, in those days, only 9 students got into the graphic design course every year at uni.
Wow.
There were like 10,000 applicants type thing, and 9 got in. I got an interview which was deemed awesome, but it didn't make the 9. And they said to me, why don't you look at doing design teaching? I didn't want to be a teacher. But honestly, I was young.
Yeah.
And I was actually born in January. So I don't know what it's like the rest of the country, but I started school like a year early when I was born. So I was actually only 16 when I graduated from high school.
Same.
There you go.
I'm a May baby. So we went to school a year, as you said, early in Melbourne. Yeah.
And without a word of a lie, I said to myself, 4 years at uni, great.
Yeah.
I'll worry about teaching in 4 years' time. And when you're 16, 4 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So I honestly just thought that's so far in the future. I don't need to worry about it. I'm just going to go to uni, study design. Okay, it's got a teaching element, but I'm going to learn design. I'm going to have a great time. Yeah. And before I knew it, the 4 years was up. All jokes aside, I was extremely fortunate to get an amazing job at a leading private school in Adelaide as a design teacher. And honestly, those jobs are a dime a dozen, probably still today.
Yeah.
They don't exist en masse like, say, a English or maths or history teacher might. It was a really prime opportunity. So I was very, very fortunate to get that. So before I knew it, I was actually a teacher, and that was just a shock. And because I was young, I was 20 when I started.
Yeah.
And I was teaching year 12s that are only a couple of years younger than me.
Wow.
But I look back now, it was an all boys Catholic
School.
school,
Yeah.
and I look back now with real joy and pride at that. And it was I was actually lucky to be a young male teaching young males that helped me connect at their level.
Yeah.
And obviously being design as a subject, it's not like maths or English, particularly at the older senior level, students only study it because they enjoy it and want to do it.
Yes.
So I had a very different relationship with my students than perhaps a common teacher might have. But I diverse a bit. But through that process, I'll go right back. It's a very, very long story. When you're a design teacher at a private school, I'll use the word lumped, and that sounds negative, but it's just the way it is. You get approached, or you need to do a lot of promotional work design-wise for the school.
Right.
And that was, from some people have to do extracurricular things like teach a sports team or something like that. My extracurricular commitment was to help the school with design and promotional marketing.
Amazing.
And that was great. Long story short, the federal government had a competition at the time. At the start, the internet was really just starting to become people's mindsets. And they started what was then called Education Network Australia, which in essence was the real first, I suppose, online portal educational information systems to help schools, embrace the internet and learning and stuff like that.
Yes.
So they started this division, and they had an Australia-wide competition for a logo. And it was open to any educational institution from literally a kindergarten through to a university. So if you're in education, in inverted commas, your institution, your educational school could submit a logo to apply. In theory, I'm sure the essence of it, from a government perspective, was to get students designing logos, but they actually whoever did it didn't word it properly. So as long as the institution submitted it, you were legitimate.
Gotcha.
Long story short, the headmaster said to me, we're entering this and we're going to win.
Yeah.
And I actually said to him, and I was really honest with it, I said, I think these things are quite political. It will go to a marginal seat.
Yeah.
That, we weren't an overly wealthy school, but compared to some schools, we were extremely wealthy.
Yes.
I just said to him, I just don't think politically we're going to win this, if you know.
Yeah.
But he's very passionate about it. It was a great opportunity. At the time, it was $100,000 worth of computer equipment.
Wow.
Now,
That's huge. This is like in the 90s.
Yeah. So it was worth a significant amount of money back then.
Yeah.
And look, long story short, I didn't think we had any hope of winning it.
Yeah.
But I designed this logo very quickly, threw it in. Lo and behold, we won.
Oh my goodness.
And the great thing that occurred through that, and this is how it all connects, is that the school essentially built me a computer digital classroom for design. So I was able to start to teach the web in its infancy in the school. And because design was extremely popular, particularly with the year 12s, the 11 year 12 senior level. So I was extremely fortunate to have this digital classroom, and I was able to start teaching the web. And it was the web in its infancy, so it was very, very basic. HTML.
So basic.
But I started teaching it and loved it. And I say to anyone that asks, I've done two great things in my life. Firstly, and foremostly, married my wife, who's the most wonderful human being on the planet.
Yeah.
That's the best thing I've ever done. But the second thing, I think that I saw that as a designer, and I should go back one step. I always saw myself as a designer that at that point in time was educating. I never really saw myself as a teacher, as a full-time vocation.
Yes.
So I always had this desire to start a business one day. So I started teaching the web, and I saw that from a digital sense, websites were the next frontier for graphic designers. And graphic design as an industry, it's only gotten worse today with the advancements of technology and magnificent tools like Canva, just as an example. They've changed the world.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, what they've done, and I don't say this as a negative, because evolution occurs. It's no different than the Industrial Revolution and the arts and crafts movement. But what that does has unfortunately made pure graphic design more of a commodity. So its value has dropped. And I even saw back then, years, decades ago, that it was just so hard to make a great career in that because of the competition and the perceived value of what you did. And I saw the internet as being that next great frontier that design could really flourish and grow. So I was really passionate and keen to learn about how a designer could learn the internet and the web and, grow in that sphere. So I was teaching at the school and I had long service leave owing. So I'd stayed for 8 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
time flies. And again, I got to stress, I was very, very fortunate. It really was a wonderful school. Big plug to Blackfriars Primary School in Adelaide.
Hi.
Wonderful school, great students, great people. I was really, really fortunate to be there. Learned a lot, met some great people. But I had long service owing, and I always had this burning desire to start a business. And in those days, I'm not sure what the case is now, but you could actually take double time at half pay. So I was able to take half a year off at half pay for my long service.
Yep.
Again, I go back to my wife, extremely supportive, said, let give it a go.
Do it.
But if it fails, you can always go back and be a teacher.
That's
I had
it.
a job to go back to type thing. And so I started a web business. And again, planets were just aligning. My brother-in-law at the time was the IT manager of one of Australia's largest mining organisations.
Wow. Yep.
He had a fantastic job, very talented guy. And he literally said to me, he knew I was taking the long service to try and start the business. And he said, we probably need one of these website things,
Yes.
Companies were just starting to think we should probably have one.
That's right.
So he said to me, why don't you come in and work a couple of days a week at our office? Now, we'll pay a couple of days a week. There's no pressure, but why don't you build us our first website?
Yeah.
So it was an enormous opportunity. I owe him a lot. So I did that as part of the 6 months and learnt a lot through that, really learnt the trade of, it's very different teaching students how basic HTML through to actually building a business website.
Yes.
But yeah, through that, I was able to start the business. And again, long story short, never went back. Wow. So I was able to get going at the really early stages of the web. Yeah, a great experience. So that's how it all started. And I'm now I'm going to say, my 4th business. They've all kind of evolved and grown and led to other opportunities.
Yes.
Hand on heart, the one I'm in now is definitely the best. The one I've always been passionate about every business I've had. Yes. But this is a really special one for a number of reasons. So yeah, that's the background to how I got into it.
Wow. I did not know any of that.
Yeah, not many,
you.
Obviously, and particularly many teachers, not many people are.
Fantastic.
And I got to say too, that's really helped over the years from a communication aspect. They say public speaking, people fear public speaking more than death and things like that. But yeah, when you're 20 years old and suddenly standing up in front of some rowdy kids, you soon learn how to, to speak in front of people and things like that. And that's not to say I still don't get nervous, but I learned a lot of great skills, a lot of communication skills.
Yes.
That I think really served me well when the business and professional life started.
Now, being in the industry of web design for over 25 years, what's one myth that you'd like to share, that you'd like to bust for us today?
Great questions, Doris. Myth. Well, I'll answer this one. Not all websites are equal.
Yes, that's a great one.
And I don't know if it's actually technically a myth, but there is a perception in business and as a whole that it's very easy to create websites and anyone can create one for you. And what I mean by that is you do see, and I don't mean any disrespect, I really want to stress this before I go deeper into it, but you see all types of agencies or professional services businesses. Yes. And it's just expanding. You even see, I'll even say like almost like accountancy, financial companies now saying we'll design your website.
Yeah, you do.
But particularly, brand agencies, PR agencies, SEO agencies.
Yep.
And the digital is so specialized, as you know, first and foremost. And you need to stay in your lane these days. It was very different 20 years ago.
Yes.
15 years ago.
Yes.
I even look back 10 years ago to what my agencies then were doing. You know, I use the example of when social media came into our being.
Yes.
And, you know, as a web agency, we were offering social media marketing initially because you could, because it was so simple and so basic. And we were all learning about it.
Yes.
You can't now. You need to stay in your lane. And as you know, there are social media marketing agencies that just do LinkedIn, just do TikTok, or just do Instagram, because it's that specialized.
It is.
And if one bit of advice I can give to people watching this, if you're looking for a partner anywhere in digital, find one that stays in their lane and specializes and just does one thing.
Yes.
Because any agency that says that we can do
all of it.
What that means, unfortunately, 99.999% of the time is they usually do one thing well, and the other 5 things or whatever, they're outsourcing.
Yeah.
They're losing control because they're outsourcing it, or they're trying to do it and they're doing a really terrible low-level job. And unfortunately, the customer ends up with a subpar solution.
Yes.
So when I say all websites aren't equal, the myth to me is that there are exceptions to the rule, but agencies that specialize have core specialty in another area are not the places to go to get a website.
No.
Just like, and I want to stress this, just like you wouldn't go to a web designer to design your brand logo, you shouldn't just go to a specialized, like if someone comes to me to say they need SEO, as you know, you're one of the key people I recommend because you're a specialist and that's what you do. And you don't make out you do other things.
No.
So we don't touch SEO. We understand it. We know it's important. I'd like to think we could probably do it, but we would only do at best 25, 30% to the level that you would do it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that for someone that actually's got some deep knowledge about it.
Yeah.
You can imagine the people that don't know the percentages that they're providing.
Yes.
You need to specialize. So please don't think that anyone can design you a website, because unfortunately they can't. They don't understand the discipline.
No.
And you might find you get a result that initially you're happy with, but you'll soon learn it's not converting. It's not working the way you expected. And it's no disrespect to people that've done it. They've no doubt done their best.
Yep.
But their expertise is not there, so they can't produce at a level. That unfortunately today you just need.
What's been the biggest business challenge for you that you've had to face and overcome?
Another great question. I've always thought the lack of time, and you'd know from running your own business, I say to so many people, I work very hard, work long hours, but I love it. So it's a labor of love. But so many times friends and family would say, why don't you just take a break? Take the weekend off.
Yes.
And always comes from a great place, don't get me wrong. But the way I answer it is there is always something to do.
Always.
When it's your own business, there's never nothing to do.
Yeah.
There's always something to do. So I've always found time and time management a really big challenge for me.
Yeah.
Maybe being creative by nature, that's part of the reason that's a bit of a challenge. But so there's that. But I'd have to say sales is always the biggest challenge for any business. Even the really, really successful ones. It doesn't mean you don't have sales challenges. And doing that well and effectively, all those things, reaching the right people, communicating the right way. That's always a challenge. Always has been. I think always will be. And anyone that says it doesn't probably isn't telling the truth.
Agree.
If they've nailed it, please speak to me, because I love to learn what you've done. And you do see people that really do it exceptionally well. But like I said, I'm sure it's been a challenge for them. A lot of learnings along the way to get there. A lot of dedication to get there. So
And there's so many external factors with that too. And I know you and I have had discussions about this multiple times, but when things are happening externally, in the world and all those types of things, it definitely has an impact on businesses. And within the last 12 months, we've seen that, and looks like things are on the up again and things are improving. But yes, it's definitely a roller coaster ride, and it's not always, as I like to say on the podcast, rainbows and unicorns. There's definitely times when you think, what am I doing? I could just go get a job and work for someone else, and someone else can worry about the accounting, the sales, the this, the that. And then, as you said, being a creative, you sit back and go, there is absolutely no way that I could go and work for someone else and be restricted by their terms, their conditions, their times, and all the things. So it's only momentary, I think, that we have those thoughts, but we all have them. We all sit there and go, what am I doing?
We do. And
This is too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone I speak to in business, and I'm a member of a few business groups, everyone says the same thing.
Yeah.
It's hard. And look, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
That's it.
It's as simple as that.
That's it.
And now, I know you and I have discussed, the great irony is that when times are tough economically, and obviously at the moment, people are really hurting. And the first thing that occurs is that marketing spend is the first thing they drop.
It is.
It really needs to be the last. And there's so many opportunities.
Yes.
If you can continue to market and do things well in economic downturns. And don't get me wrong, I understand it's tough for people.
Yeah.
But yeah, in our line of work, it's always the first thing that
goes.
drops in business spend, because it's the easiest thing to drop.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone's listening,
yes,
if you're in that position, and if you can by any means continue to do so, even just doing something,
yes,
it's a huge opportunity, and you will grow so much once it does rebound. Because the economy, that's how it works.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
When things start to lift, you will be so far ahead of your competition. It's not funny.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you can afford it by any means, please keep doing the right things at the moment, because you will reap those rewards tenfold.
Now, in the intro, I mentioned contain your brain. But can you tell us about, contain your brain, how it started, and what it is, and give us some insights on that?
Love to, because it's something I'm really passionate about. So it's this new startup that I'm a co-founder in with a clinical psychologist, Dr. Lillian Najad, who's a brilliant clinical psychologist. So it all started because we're members of the same business group called Club of United Business, or CUB, which is a magnificent business group. I've been a member of multiple business groups over the years, and it is, hand on heart, the best by a country mile.
Yeah.
And I joined at the very beginning of COVID. So everything was online, obviously, at that point. There was no in-person meeting, particularly in Victoria.
Yeah.
Won't go into that. So what they were doing was, or what they still continue to do, is what they call them digital conversations, where members can present to other members in the club, I suppose, related to their area of expertise, hints and tips and things like that. And I've done some, obviously, with the web. And one came up in the list about better dealing with worry, anxiety, and hints and tips to better deal with those things in business. And that really stood out and resonated with me, because I'm what they call, from a psychological perspective, a classic worrier, and I put that in inverted commas. And what
this is why we get on. I'm the same.
What they mean by that is that if something's on my mind, and it doesn't, doesn't matter what it is, it will stay on my mind 24/7. And I joke about it, but I say, as a male, I don't address it. I just let it fester, let it solve itself out. So obviously, as a business owner, there is always stress, anxiety, worries. Like we're saying, there's always things to do. There's always pressures.
Yeah.
And again, hand on heart, even when you're really doing well and you're kicking massive goals, it doesn't mean you're not under stress or pressure. Sometimes you're under more pressure.
I agree.
At the great times and the low times.
Yeah.
So it really resonated with me to try and just learn, more about some tips that could help better deal with that.
Yeah.
So I attended this seminar that Dr. Lillian Najad ran. And she went through many techniques, which were all great, but there was one thing that just, it's like a light globe moment in my mind. And this thing, or this concept, which is a psychological concept, which is called worry time. And in simple terms, all it is you choose a time and a place to worry. So you say to yourself, I'm just using a simple example here.
Yeah.
You say, I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes in my schedule to worry on Tuesdays at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Because that's the time that suits me, for example.
Yeah.
And what you do for the rest of the week is just jot down whatever's in your mind that's concerning you, jot it down on a piece of paper, throw it into a box, a jar, doesn't matter, but just jot it down, keep it. And then you address it, or you consider it at that time that you've allocated for your worry time.
Yeah.
And what that tells your brain is that, great, you're actually proactively addressing these concerns or this concern.
Yeah.
So your brain says, great, I'm going to worry about that at 5 p.m. on that Tuesday. So I don't need to worry about it now. So it frees your mind from that concern or worry throughout the rest of the day, the rest of the week. And look, you could have worry time multiple times per day. You could do it multiple days per week. You could do it once a month. It doesn't matter. It's what's right for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you train your brain to say, don't worry about it now, because you're going to properly address it at this point in time. And I just thought, wow, what a simple yet effective concept.
It is. I've never heard of it before.
This is the major thing I've learned through this process, is that we don't get taught in school or life how to best deal with worry. So long story short, it really just, like I said, this light globe moment that really resonated with me. And I was so impressed about it. I started implementing it. It was really helping. Yeah. And I even find myself, just the fact of writing something down is such a proactive way, because I was never even doing that before.
Okay.
Even just that simple little step, you start to train your brain to actually better deal and actually start to address things.
Yep. So
long story short, I was really impressed. And I do a lot of posts, as you know, on LinkedIn, business hints and tips. Obviously, 99.9% focused on how to have a better website. But one day, one week, I thought, I'm going to post about how I learnt this tip, because it's really helping me.
Yeah.
So I just did a quick 15-second video, just said, look, met this psychologist, she taught me this.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's really working for me. Highly recommend look into it, because it's just this. If you're in business and you're stressed, which 99% of people would be.
We wake up stressed.
Yeah. You go to bed stressed, you wake up stressed.
We wake up stressed, yeah.
Check this out, because it's just so good. And long story short, Dr. Lillian saw it and was obviously really thrilled that I'd mentioned it. But a year had passed, and by this stage, COVID, we're still in COVID, but it was evolving.
Yeah.
So we were having face-to-face meetings with the group, and we met at a function at the business group, and started to get to know each other. But it's just one meeting. Another year had passed, and she rang me completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
And just said, have you got 5 minutes? I've got an idea. I just want to run it past you to get your advice. What she was finding in her practice was that she was recommending this to her patients.
Yeah.
But people
don't do it.
People being people. And I put my own hand up, because I know, again, like I said before, as a male, I just let things fester. But the responses that she was getting were things like, what type of pad do I need? Does it, do I need a small pad, large pad? I haven't got a box. I don't have a jar. People just try to find any excuse not to do it.
Correct. That's what I was going to say. That's just an excuse.
Yeah, but that's who we are as humans. So she had this idea that I think it could work really well in an app environment. But obviously she's a psychologist and come from a digital perspective. And she literally just said, do you think this could work in an app? And again, it's like another light globe. I was just like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
Like, it's just absolutely perfect. And it's such a, from an app conceptually, functionally, it's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
Essentially what the app does is it allows you to choose a place, and the place just needs to be somewhere in your home that you're comfortable with. It technically doesn't even need to be your home. It could be a park bench, but somewhere that you can be really comfortable and relax and have some quiet time. And obviously, so it's the place and the time, and allows you to set that. It has an alarm in it that obviously, notifies you. It goes into your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But then throughout the week, you can just start to jot any concerns, stresses, anxiety you've got. You just put them into the app.
Yeah.
And when your worry time comes, what you do is you then start to categorize the worries. And as I've learned through this process, worries, fall into 3 different categories. Solvable, which means that you can actually do something about it yourself to resolve this.
Yeah.
Unsolvable, which means it's actually out of your control.
Yeah.
And I suppose, it doesn't sound negative, but something like if you have an illness, that's an incurable illness. I'm going really to the nth extreme.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you had terminal cancer, for example, that's essentially out of your control.
Yep.
And then the third type are solved, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And something like 90% or even higher percent of worries actually solve themselves. They actually don't even become concerns.
They don't need your help.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
So essentially you start by categorizing into where you think they fit. And obviously some worries might start at solvable and move through the process over time. But then this is where the brilliance of my co-founder Lillian comes in as a psychologist. She's put in these amazing hints and tips that help people work through their worries from a psychological perspective. So it trains you to start to how to best address, how could I start to address a worry if it is solvable, or if it's unsolvable, how can I start to accept that as a human being? And if it's solved itself, what can I reflect on and learn from that? And all these great tips that just improve how you address worry. So it's all about, our tagline is a simple app that teaches you to worry less and live more. So it teaches you to worry less through worrying better. But it's a really, really simple app. And some things we're really proud that it helps people. But the other aspect, we designed it specifically not to track any data whatsoever.
Wow.
And obviously people will listen to this at different times, but only last week in Australia, there was another major breach of a health provider that got hacked. And it doesn't matter who you are or how good your systems are these days.
No.
Everyone is hackable. But again, there's been another major breach, and people's personal, and particularly when it comes to things like health, it's serious. So we designed it specifically, and some people have said to us, they put their business hat on and say you've done it wrong, but we don't track anything. It's a one-time fee to download if you're just a consumer. There are two versions. I'll get to the B2B one in a second, but as a consumer, it's a one-time payment, and it's one time for life. So you get free upgrades for life. But when you just simply download it, it downloads on your phone. There's no sign up, no user account. We do not know who the customers are, and we don't want to.
No.
It's a private thing. None of the data is stored in the cloud. The worries you enter are securely stored on your phone. So unless you lose your phone and don't have any protection on your phone, like password or face recognition, it's completely safe. No one can hack in and get your worries. But if you're working with a psychologist, you can export them to a CSV if you choose to, but that's your choosing. Otherwise, they're just securely stored on the phone. And it's something we're really proud of because, in today's age, and we're very conscious when we're designing and building it that, there are going to be some people putting some pretty serious, not just personal, but maybe even legally related aspects that are concerning them, then for whatever reason they might be involved in. And we wanted to make sure that it was something that was really safe and secure. And, ironically, we were at a major digital health conference only 2 weeks ago.
I saw that.
And amazing event and people doing some wonderful, amazing things. But the amount of data that is being tracked by other apps in various, fields, not just worry related. I'd almost go to say we're probably the only app in the world that's not.
That's not,
And it just really stuck out to us that we have a point of difference. And that's a point of difference to us that is really, really important. Everyone says, oh, yeah, it's safe and secure. We actually are. Because it's impossible to be hacked.
Absolutely.
Unless you lose your phone, you've got no protection. Your worries are completely safe.
Well, look, I'm the first one to put my hand up. I've definitely, in 7 years of business, have, had to seek help and support. Shout out to Beyond Blue, who do an amazing job with their support. And I was part of their 6-week business program. Really, at a time where I was definitely struggling, with my mental health. And as it's all consuming. So getting that right support and getting the right help and someone that is trained as well in that area of field, and the fact that your co-founder is a psychologist is fantastic, because it just means that that foundation is really there, and the purpose behind it is to help people. And you mentioned there's a
1,000%.
B2B aspect to it as well.
Yeah, so we've built also, so there's consumer that just go to the App Store, pay your one-time fee and download. But there's a B2B version, which is for workplaces, schools or educational institutions.
Yeah.
So everything from high schools. So the application itself and the worry time theory is really from about 12 years up. Advanced children that are younger could probably use it. But you need a certain level of maturity and understanding and knowledge. So yeah, so that's workplaces, educational institutions, and obviously health professionals, psychologists. So what that allows us to do is obviously sell, let's say, to a school that can then, so that the school would obviously purchase amount of downloads it wants for its, community, and it would then it's able to make that through the enterprise app stores. Once you get a secure link to that, you can download it for free. So the schools, for example, could provide that, or workplaces could provide it to their staff free of charge as part of their wellbeing initiatives.
Amazing.
Like we've had some initial success with that, which we're really, really proud of. Some organisations have come on board and are buying it for their staff. And look, life's just getting harder. It's not getting easier.
It's not.
The stresses that we're under, the world that we live in, so yeah, mental health is a real thing. And even if you don't consider yourself to have a mental health issue, as I say, and I've learned, everyone worries. Someone says, I have no worries, I don't worry. Sorry, you're not being true to yourself. Everybody has concerns at some level. And our mission from day one has been to help at least 1 million people worry less through worrying better. That's what we're all about.
Well, Brenton, we've gone through so much in today's episode. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for your time. I know your time is very precious.
I really appreciate you wanting to speak with me. It's always awesome to speak with you and catch up. But yes, I thank you so much for thinking, and hopefully I've helped and provided some value in some way.
You have. I've learned so much from this episode myself. So brilliant. Thanks again, Brenton.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Dawes.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving this show a listen, and don't forget to leave your feedback and rating. If you want to learn more about me or my services, please jump on over to letsgetvisible.com.au, where you'll find show notes and links to my social media profiles so you can connect there as well. Okay, well, that's a wrap for another episode. So I'll join you next time on the Let's Get Visible podcast.